Welcome, everybody, including all of you that are out there in our offices or other jurisdictions across the rivers. We're glad you're here. Pretty good turnout today. I'm happy to introduce a couple of people here, key folks. The first of which is Alex Schiponi, our account rep with CoStar. We've had a CoStar account for probably pushing 20 years now, almost, and it's grown pretty steadily over the years. One of the purposes of this session today is to get a head count for our renewal on the account, which is at the end of this month, February 1. So we currently have about 37 users for CoStar, which is right about the max that we've ever had. And with the growth of the company, it looks like we'll probably exceed that for the coming renewal cycle. And Alex joined the team as our account representative this past year. And he's been a pleasure to work with so far. And he's happy to get with any of you all on a one-on-one phone call and in some cases webinars. So again, as Justin said, this session today is going to be recorded. So you all can come back to it, view it anytime you want down the road. So welcome to Alex, our account rep. Everybody give Alex a warm welcome, please. The next gentleman here I'm going to introduce, I'm happy to introduce, some of you know him, Mr. Nik Biberai. Nick is our new commercial director of commercial operations for Samson Commercial Properties. He is our branch manager for McLean. So if any of you haven't been to our McLean office, I encourage you to stop in and see Nick there. Nick is a commercial practitioner himself, been with the company a good number of years, and his mother has also been with us as a licensee for, 10 or 15 years easy. So Nick steps in to take over for Aladdin El-Katheri, who's here. Welcome, Aladdin. And Aladdin, I want to thank Aladdin for all of his contributions over the last 4 years in the role of our commercial operations director. And Aladdin, I'm thrilled to say, is with us. He's going to continue with us. He pivoted to focus more on his own commercial operations development, and he's excited about what this next year is going to bring for him under Samson Commercial. So thanks again, Aladdin. And Nick, welcome. Nick is going to be available to add some input, feedback, along with Alex as we move forward. With that, thanks again, gents, and it's all yours.
Beautiful. Appreciate it. Do you want to kick anything off? Or yeah, so excited for the opportunity. We can connect after this presentation. For everybody who's watching, my information's on Cardinal Nest. Like Mike said, my office is in McLean, so please reach out. Happy to meet everybody, and let's make 2026 a great year. Yeah, appreciate everyone joining us today. I'm excited to kind of run through CoStar, its prominence in the industry, and how it's going to be helpful to support all of your businesses on the commercial side of the real estate industry. So yeah, like we said, bear with us. We're going to take Q&A at the end. So if there's something that I gloss over or you want some additional elaboration on, obviously we will have the opportunity to do so. CoStar as a whole is the leading provider of commercial real estate data and analytics. So you can see here we have deployed a astronomical amount of capital to build and maintain the ecosystem that CoStar has become. It's really the resource for everything under the sun, from site selection to business development for new clients you may be working with. On the residential side of the industry, obviously, there's the multiple listing service, right? Here locally, it's Bright. Across the country, I think it's up to over 500 MLSs. So that's what everybody leverages, right? Seeing what inventory is out there, what comps are helpful for your negotiation. On the commercial side of the industry, that leaves the gap for everything else. So anything that's not a single-family home or residential condo, who's tracking all of the office, industrial, retail, hospitality, larger apartment complexes, that's CoStar Group. So it is a one-stop, streamlined ecosystem of commercial real estate information. So a lot of that is Yeah, we've been tracking this. You saw on my first slide, almost 40 years. So being able to understand all of the components of commercial real estate as a whole, we have CoStar as a product as the center of a massive spider web. Right, we have over 30 brands. We're an international company. I put a couple of them on here that you may be a little bit more familiar with: LoopNet, Apartments.com, Homes.com. Sure, some of you have gotten outreach from the Homes team, but those are really our front-facing digital advertising products, right? Think Bright versus Zillow, Homes, Redfin. So one's really for the professionals, the brokers. Those are facilitating transactions, and that's going to be CoStar in the commercial real estate sector. So internationally, this is what everybody uses: the ownership groups, the brokers, but everybody. We're the sole source to the federal government. Any Targets, Walmarts, retail, Blackstone, large retail portfolio management. CoStar is what everybody in the industry is using. The brokers are no different. Here locally, it's 100% of the top 1,000 brokerage firms are using CoStar day to day. Nationally, that number is like 93%. So we've really become the gold standard of providing this intel and arming all of our clients with the invaluable information that comes with tens and tens of trillions of dollars of commercial assets in the United States. So really what comes to mind typically is why. Why is CoStar so great? Why does everybody not leverage other information resources? It's really our unparalleled research methodology. So you can see here these, first off the jump, 1,600 plus researchers. You probably have gotten calls if you have active inventory. Every single month, any property for sale or space that's active is whoever's the primary broker, or if the ownership group's liquidating that property themselves, is getting a touch point from one of these portfolio researchers. So they're really the ones that are updating this living, breathing database, making sure everything is as accurate as humanly possible. We do have third-party syndications from, local courthouse records and what the municipality is reflecting for transactions, ownership, LLCs. Problem is, it's only one piece to the story, right? So the researchers are there to bridge the gap on everything else. Blackstone's a great example. Massive institutional investor. Well, not all of their properties that they're acquiring are under Blackstone, right? It's blanket LLCs. They have joint ventures. They have other parties that they're pulling capital to deploy for their acquisitions. So the research team really bridges the gap on who really is overseeing this portfolio, who are the decision makers affiliated. Same thing that you would leverage, Bright for. What's the price per square foot on properties that are trading hands? What's fair market value? Kind of giving you every piece to the puzzle that may be pertinent to, capitalize on opportunities, ultimately get more commissions in everyone's pockets, right? So the researchers, you can see a lot of them are the portfolio researchers. We also have a field research team. There are boots on the ground. So you may have seen Apartments.com or CoStar branded vehicles. We case the markets. We have drone pilots where it's permitted. We have you can see here an airplane we fly around the country. It actually has military grade camera equipment that we just strapped on the underbelly. So we're actually casing the market. Yes, the brokers bridge the gap, the owners, the developers, the property managers. That's all really helpful information, but we take it a step further. We get out in the field, architectural photographers. We know the delivery date per the developer is X. Well, we fly over those parcels, see, are there excavators on the land? Is there metal sticking out of the ground? How much dirt's been moved around? So it's really become the sole source for a lot of organizations, because this is what's required to maintain accuracy and, making sure our clients have everything that may be helpful for what they're trying to accomplish. So this translates to millions of transaction details. You can see internationally, there's over 8 million properties in the CoStar ecosystem. That's just over 6 million just in the United States alone. But every transaction, every time we see that flag from the courthouse record, this transaction took effect, that we'll put it into our researchers queue. They're going and verifying all of the leases, all of the sales, how much are they purchasing it for. All of our directory is extremely robust. Not just, this is the company, and I got to go put on my private investigator hat and find who it is on LinkedIn. It's all built into the CoStar system. So you can see phone numbers, emails, VP of acquisition, CEO, everybody under the sun will be incorporated into the directory and the company details. We also have a ton of analysts on staff. So the research team is our army, right? We're making sure we're getting everything, getting our hands on every transaction that's occurring. And then we have a lot of economists and analysts in-house that are really combing all of the data that the research team is verifying. They're each quarter publishing reports on every market, every submarket, every commercial asset class to provide our clients that clarity, right? Maybe I specialize in retail tenant rep, but I have a client that's now trying to purchase an industrial property in a geography I'm not familiar with. Well, you don't have to be in the know, armed and dangerous across the board, because our analysts also are there to bridge the gap and sift through all this data in conjunction with your research to provide that clarity on what's going on, what's the historical information, how do we derive current market conditions accordingly, and then what are the forward-looking indicators? What do we project? What is, kind of any data point under the sun, from rental rates to occupancy to, forecasting it for a bad economic, landscape? How can we factor that in? So there's a lot of information in the back end that we're not going to get to all today, but there's a ton of really quality data within the CoStar ecosystem that, helps our clients to service their clients and, get opportunities across the finish line. So it's available, it's basically just a database, right? You can access it through the web. We also have an incredible app, so you can be on the go and know everything that may be prominent for your day-to-day. You need to look up this, property information, but we'll dig into the actual products now. So that's kind of the meat and potatoes. That was probably just a refresher for some of you. I always like to make sure we're starting on the same page. But I also, we'll take a look at a couple of modules that, I think would be prominent to have on your radar, and then, see how we can further support your business. Nick, anything I glossed over? Am I making sense for the most part? Anything that might be worth touching on?
We get into the weeds of the actual platform and how we as commercial agents use it on a daily basis. We can touch base while Alex is going through this slide, and I can touch on what's beneficial and how we can actually use it, because it is an investment that we're going to make. But by using it correctly, we should be able to get a great return and build a business plan, right? We're all out there doing different asset classes, different types of deals. We just got to make sure we're using it right and coming up with the game plan. But I think once you touch up on the product, then we can go ahead and elaborate more.
Yeah, perfect. Now, I think that's a great next step, because this is where, we're starting to dig into. We have clients. How do we service them? How do we get those opportunities across the finish line? I want to go and identify new opportunities, get more commissions in the commercial side of the industry. How are we going to really accomplish that and do so? So this is CoStar. This is the homepage. This is what hundreds of thousands of our clients see every day when they log in. We have a world-class news team. So they're publishing, major acquisitions, companies that are, new decision makers that are affiliated with those companies. The blue ribbon that you see at the top are all the products and modules that fall under the CoStar umbrella. So I'm going to take a look at 3 of them today. First one I'm going to touch on is the markets tool. So what I just mentioned last is our analysts forecasting. So this is what that looks like. Again, we track every commercial asset class. So if I were to just say, show me the DC MSA. Well, Frederick, Maryland looks a lot different than DuPont Circle, looks a lot different than McLean. So how do we look at the different data points across the region? So you can see here, I just have multifamily selected. Top right-hand corner is always going to be in all the modules, the map view, the list table view, and then the analytics view, right? Just above that, you can see, in this case, the number of submarkets we're looking at. So in the DC MSA, there's 54 multifamily submarkets. If I just pivot to that list view, this is going to break them all down, right? So you'll notice a lot of the submarkets accordingly will populate, and you can see there's a couple pages we can modify this table. It default stack ranks the data by asset value, right? So you can really understand, well, where is multifamily, the highest valuation of multifamily assets in the DMV, for lack of better words. But you can see across the top, all of the columns in blue, you can stack rank any of these data points against each other, right? So if you have, a lot of our clients are looking for opportunities, right? Especially on the acquisition side, they're trying to find value add, right? So just like you on the residential side, we want to find something that's underperforming. We want to find a way to renovate or, capture a higher price per square foot or price per unit. So within this module and what our analysts are publishing, we could stack rank this all accordingly. So if I wanted to see across these multifamily assets, just show me the year-over-year rent growth, right? Or maybe I have a client that just wants to see what is the cumulative year-over-year volume of capital being deployed, right? So that's what I have it ranked by now. Why is there a astronomical jump in Frederick County, Lower Northeast, Arlington County? This affords you the ability to start from a macro view and really understand the different asset classes, the different geographies, wherever you're working or have clients that you're working with. So nice thing is these are all very clean. They populate them again every quarter. If I wanted to take a look at Lower Northeast, it's hyperlinked. It's a click away. I click in Lower Northeast, and here's our analyst's most recent report. So this is, I believe, still going to be Q3 reporting. They typically publish the quarterly reports a week to 2 weeks after the new quarter. So this will be refreshed, and it'll be Q4 data in the coming days if it's not already. But it's a nice, clean, accurate depiction as far as here's the multifamily asset class in Lower Northeast, for example. Here's all the information as far as occupancy, price per square foot, what properties are trading hands. You can see the KPIs, the comparison trends. Along with these, a lot of published charts, graphs, again, forward-looking indicators. This is a really clean shot of the first thing that you'll see in the markets tool, because you can start to understand the different data points within a specific or designated geography, right? So here, as you can see, top right of this is the last 36 months. I could toggle this to just year over year or the last decade, however you want to slice and dice the data. Blue bar along the bottom will be the range that data point has sat in the designated time frame, and then the little icon that hovers above will be where that data point sits today. So these are, again, if you're kind of getting acclimated to a certain asset type or pocket of the DC MSA or anywhere, could be Baltimore, could be Richmond. Obviously everybody has different initiatives and different clients that are looking in different pockets of the United States. So really helpful to bridge the gap on all the information that may be relevant. I'm at your disposal. We have a research team at your disposal. These analysts that publish these reports every quarter, they're at your disposal. So they can hop on a call with you and your client trying to justify a certain cost, or how did you arrive on this data point? We're here to support you and make sure that you guys are armed and dangerous with everything that may be prominent to support your clients and get deals across the line. So pivoting back, that's the markets tool. Again, the top, I can, go to different modules. What's leveraged the most within the CoStar ecosystem is going to be this properties tool. So if I just click into properties, this is every commercial asset under the sun, right? We track it all the way down to the parcel. We've been doing this for almost 40 years. So you can see, you'll notice a lot of gray diamonds that populate on the screen. Those are off market. We know where it is. We know the square footage, the building characteristics, the parcel zoning, but currently that property is not for sale or there's no availability for lease within it. But something like 30 to 40% of commercial transactions never hit the market, right? So you also want to be in the know on, yes, what's active, what's a good fit for your clients, whether it's, leasing or sales, but it affords you the ability to quickly get a sense of who is the ownership group, the property manager, the broker on deals. It bridges the gap on everything under the sun. So top right, you can see still I have Canada and a little bit additional North American countries here sprinkled in, but this is showing 6.6 million, just shy of 6.7 million properties, right? So the top of the map view are the default fields. So geography, asset type, right? Just like we were doing in the markets tool. So if I were to just say, show me the DC market, right? So it's the same parameters and barriers for the markets. So this is the DC market geography. So that sheds it down from 6.6 million to 73,000 properties. So it's always updating the properties that meet your criteria in real time. So you can layer in anything, right? Space for lease, properties for sale, on market, off market. So for example, and I've had a lot of Samson agents that say, hey, I have a tenant, they're looking to open a restaurant, they need 2,500 square feet. So in just a couple of clicks, you can overlay your client's parameters within the CoStar ecosystem. So if I just said, show me retail that's for lease, same geography, I'm just going to layer in retail for lease. Now we've trimmed it down to the 2,700 availabilities. Now, obviously, you'd want to drill down on how much square footage do they need? What's their budget? Where do they actually receptive to opening shop, or whatever they are? That's obviously on a sliding scale and changes, ever changing. But this is just an example to see, show me X, whether that's for acquisitions or for just finding availabilities that are out there. It's a very vast ecosystem. The data is very, very robust, but it's also very intuitive. It's a lot of data to have in one place. But once you get the hang of basic functionality, navigating to the information that's going to be pertinent to you and your clients, it's very seamless transition once you really, really get into it. So from here, we could manipulate the data further. If I wanted to just see a specific property, just like the submarket reports are hyperlinked to that specific report, same thing in the properties tool. So if I wanted to get a sense of Davenport Drive, I would just click into the property. It'll revert you to the summary page. You can see the different tabs that populated across the top at the asset level. This will give you an accurate depiction as far as recent transactions. When was this purchase last? Are there availabilities for lease within? And all the data surrounding that. So I can say, all right, this one met my criteria. Here's the retail that triggered the results. Here's the most recent sale date. Let me see the tenant stacking plan, who actually occupies space in Davenport Drive, right? What are the demographic trends? What does consumer spending look like? And then any contact, broker, owner, property management will populate directly. So in this case, Bernstein Management, they're the owner, so they're doing their leasing and management in-house. But this is a really good place to just see recorded owner, what's syndicated from public record versus what CoStar researchers have been able to verify and incorporate into the data. So it streamlines the whole process to understand, not just a blanket LLC that's public record, but it doesn't really paint the whole story. And it's much more difficult to capitalize on something like that, just having a blanket LLC or not really having all of the details surrounding what the transaction was, why it occurred, and who's involved in that deal. So that's the real run through of the properties tool. Again, we could get very granular within this product and drill down on all of this different details and information. But just to give you a high level overview of how often clients are leveraging this type of information, that's the properties tool.
So I like to touch up on that. So we have a commercial team at the McLean office under the Biberai Group, and really what our agents are doing is really focusing on like an asset class. So with the properties tool, what you can do is say you want to do retail, anything under 10,000 square feet in Alexandria. You literally can use the property tool, look at all the properties under that criteria, and then do like a quick survey of who are the owners. And then that can literally be your business, right? You can reach out to those people, create value, use the marketing data tool under CoStar, and make phone calls, send emails. Hey, we're a leasing broker. Do you want to sell? So these are things that you can use with CoStar. Get all the data, learn it. We recommend not waiting until you get a client to get access to CoStar. Use the tools correctly. Use it to your benefit, and start with the simple business plan. Reach out to 100 owners and keep calling them. So these are things that you can do to build a great business pipeline that our agents are actively doing, and it's working.
Nick, that's what you did, right?
Correct.
I mean, you started here, you built your own business knowing that Samson Commercial Properties was not, hadn't established itself as a real player some years ago, a big player in the commercial market. But so you had to overcome some objections, but by doing your research ahead of time and just making those calls, reaching out, it's prospecting.
And it's a learning experience. You're going to get denied a lot, and You got to change the way you communicate, change the value that you think you're creating versus what the actual owners want. And it's a learning process, but if you keep putting in the phone calls, volume speaks for itself, and showing up every day and making those calls will, pay off a lot of dividends.
Yeah. No, that's all really good. It's not rocket science. It's not everyone thinks, oh, commercial real estate. It's relationship driven business, right? If you know what someone that you're reaching out to is doing, how you can support their business, everyone's going to get told no, right? I'm in sales. I get told no all the time, but that persistence to really differentiate yourself, that's, what a lot of our clients are doing, especially when they're, going against the JLLs, the CBREs, the Cushman Wakefields. This is the same data they're using, right? Arming yourself with this information, you're at the same negotiation table, the same data that they're using to facilitate their transactions. So it affords you the ability to really be on an even playing field, and then, win those clients because you're more nimble, you take a more vested interest because, you don't have a million commercial exclusives or opportunities. So there are some really good differentiators that I'm sure, Nick would be happy to connect with you all to really, get that foot in the door. But, again, it's a relationship driven industry, whether that be, I'm not going to, dig into the tenants module too much today, but hey, what tenants' leases are expiring in the next 6 months? They may be trying to downsize. They may be, having fights with their property managers. A lot of the tenants, they don't have this data. They don't have the comps, especially the smaller mom and pop shops. They would need and require that type of support to go to bat on their behalf, make sure they're getting a fair, renewal rate. So everything under the sun from, tenant rep to landlord rep. The third module I'm going to hop into is the sales comp module. You'll notice a recurring theme, right? It starts with the map view, right? Here's all the pins on the map, and the markets tool, it's the geographies. But this is a now sale comp module. It's all the same property records, it's all the same navigation and functionality. But now we're looking at all the transactions that are occurring across the globe, right? So it'll default, you can see here, to the last 24 months of transactions. But sticking with the multifamily theme, I could say, well, just show me DC, just show me multifamily. I'm going to keep 24 months, show me 10 to 100 doors, right? So really quickly, you can narrow that data set, same way you would on the residential side, right? Is this a 2-car garage? Is it a finished bathroom, 3-bed, 2-bath, finished basement? So you want to find like assets in a pool of properties that are going to support your work. A really cool function that's been in CoStar forever, but this still sometimes wows people, is we have custom analytics reports. So the analysts, they publish their reports, they dig through the data and look at it from the entire submarket and geographically. But you can actually generate in real time analytics reports based on any criteria that you apply, right? So you can do this in the properties tool. I'm in SalesCom right now. Multifamily deals, DC MSA, last 24 months, 10 to 100 doors. Top right, rather than being the number of properties in my pool, now it's the number of transactions that occurred, right? So we're looking at 188 properties. This data set is based on what I've layered in. So based on this information, the average price per unit, what's the cap rate, how much capital is being deployed, same KPI chart, but now it's specific to the asset class, the transaction, the data that you want to see. It streamlines the entire thing to get a accurate depiction, right? So you're always, I'm sure you see it all the time. What comp are they looking at to justify X price? Well, all the data is right here, right? So you can look at the top of the market, what's the highest price per square foot paid, or, NOI cap rate. And then you can also look at what's at the bottom. Where's more the median? What's more, going to support? It's not what it's what, when you're coming to the negotiation table, what comps you can reference, what data points are going to be relevant to support your findings. So this just arms you with everything from a transaction standpoint. I mentioned the tenants from a business development standpoint, but this is also, I didn't dig into it on the analyst publishing, but a lot of these, KPIs, these data points, they will publish into specific for that geography, that submarket, that asset type. They'll also be generated for the data that you built out. So for client facing, for pulling down a custom aggregate that you want to look at, you can see here, kind of what the volume looks like year over year versus historically. The star rating, just think of it like BOMA rating, right? Class A, B, C. It's just a internal CoStar guide, but those are lined up based on the same parameters. So what does that look like as far as, understanding the makeup of the transactions that are occurring? These are the forecasting. We partner with Oxford Economics, so they take the data from CoStar in conjunction with our analysts, and we look at the forward-looking indicators, right? What's the price per unit, price per bedroom? Is that going to remain stagnant? You can see it's looking like it's going to for a couple quarters. After that, it upticks dramatically. But everything under the sun, right? Who's involved in these deals? Are they institutional investors? Is it the Blackstones, the BlackRocks, the larger players, the real estate investment trusts, or is this someone here locally that is just purchasing some 10 units and smaller opportunities? So this will break down all of that information in these custom data sets. But the question becomes, well, who are these people, right? I need to get into that granularity. So based on, to Nick's point, market share report for all retail owners, that's a really good list. These are people that have done a deal in the last 24 months. So if you're going after low-hanging fruit, especially from an acquisition standpoint, this is going to afford you the ability to see everybody that's involved in these deals, right? So top right, we're looking at the analytics view. Remember map view, list view, analytics view. If I pivot back to this list view, it's basically just putting it all into that nice clean table, right? Property by property. Here's the deal that occurred, in this case in the sale comp module, the transactions that happened. You'll notice at the top, the tabs that populate in this list view, right? So it's not just each deals, it's not just taking an aggregate of the price per door, the cap rate, the capital deployed. It's also every single party that was involved in these deals. So I can just pivot to show me everybody across these 188 transactions that was on the acquisition side. Deals can be tough to pencil, with interest rates the way they are, and being able to understand who's still making opportunities work. I think this is underleveraged within the CoStar product as far as getting in touch with not just who holds a property and has been sitting on capital gains for a decade, right? Who's active? I could trim this down to 12 months. I could pivot this to any asset type, but this is going to give you everyone. So you can see, again, it's stack ranked by cumulative capital that was deployed for these organizations that were on the buying side. I can also pivot to number of transactions occurred, right? So you can start to manipulate this data to find the opportunities that are going to be a good fit for you. Blackstone, Cortland, probably have brokers here locally, probably do a lot of that underwriting in-house, but, kind of pivoting down, who's local. You can also see just to the right of the sales volume, properties owned, that's cumulative assets under management. So the sale value, you can see parentheses in search, is the capital deployed based on these 188 transactions that we've identified. But what type of investor are we looking at? Is this going to be a massive organization or someone that has a few properties? Maybe they're just ramping up their acquisitions. These are the people you want to be after. So again, that directory, all hyperlinked right back. So if I just said, show me American Housing, one click, here's their company profile, here's what they do. You can see here 24 properties. They have 2 that have broken ground and are under construction. And then you can see the tabs again at each individual organization's roll up, right? So what does their portfolio look like? What have they purchased? These are the touch points that do differentiate yourself. Now you're not just, hey, I'm Mike Briggs, I'm a broker, I'm getting into commercial. It's saw you purchased X. Notice that had low occupancy. You guys doing value add, whatever the pitch is when you're walking in the door, when you're armed with this information, it's a huge differentiator. You're not just someone on the other side of the phone that's a cold call. You know what they're doing, right? You have a vested interest in how you can help them, how you can support them. This is an incredible differentiator that's really going to be able to tee up a lot more opportunities, a lot more relationships to ultimately, again, like put more commissions in your pocket, right? We're all trying to make money, right? Like you guys want more deals, more opportunities, more things to get across the finish line. This is the resource to not just find those deals and get them across, but build that network in the commercial side of the industry to, capitalize on. So anyone that's involved in the organization, you can see we'll have emails, phone numbers, everyone under the sun. So maybe not starting with the CEO, but we also don't just call like the blanket line and talk to an admin. So you can really start to cater your pitch and organize your, how you're going to approach these organizations to, again, finalize those opportunities and get exclusive paperwork signed and ultimately, get deals across. So I appreciate you bearing with me. I know there's a lot to sift through. I think overall, to Mike's point, I really try to take a vested interest with all of my clients. Even if there's 40 licenses at Samson, I'm available. If you give me a couple days notice, or, if I can't hop on right away, hey, I'm trying to source this off-market deal, being able to dig into and leverage the resources, whether that be myself or your principals on the commercial side. We're here to help, here to support you. But ultimately, it's getting deals across, finding more opportunities, and really having that one-stop shop gold standard that, you can back into and refer to, get opportunities across the line overall. So, deep breath. Appreciate you all bearing with me. I've been yapping your ear off for half an hour, but that's really, as far as a high-level analysis, what that looks like, and how we can help Samson grow, and you as an individual agent, put more deals across the finish line.
Yeah, so you guys have any questions, I guess, for Alex or I, for like how we use it every day and how we can help our clients?
Got a microphone here if anybody has a question. And again, we're going to network in the kitchen right after this. So,
You have any financial tool on it to qualify the clients or buyers?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as far as like the loan information on the properties. Yeah. So that's syndication from public record. It's Data Axle, Warren Group, and First American. So we'll have that syndication. What was the origination date, the balance, the purchase. We also have a syndication from what we call Intex. It's a third-party data feed. Same thing TREP provides, if anyone's familiar, but what's required to be reported to the bureaus. So looking at, what is the most recent, maturity date versus the origination balance, what's the current balance, delinquencies on property. So yeah, we can certainly drill down on the asset level or market financials in that regard, no problem.
I think this question was the elevator. I thought he was asking, do you have a tool to qualify buyers or purchasers? Is that what you were asking? Form.
Yeah. So from a qualification standpoint, like, I guess I'm pardon my ignorance on the residential side. Obviously, you get all of their financial documents. I mean, it would really be they have their own lenders who is actually purchasing properties. So there's not like a portal within the system necessarily. There's a lot of ways that you could just identify, either ownership groups that maybe are struggling in that regard, but also if they're deploying capital, that's probably where your individual relationships really, comes to accelerate opportunities because, we wouldn't be able to speak to specifics regarding what their finances actually look like, but it's a good piece to still kind of piece and bridge the gap in that regard.
And you can see their full list of transactions they've done and any properties they currently own. What was that? So you can see their full transaction list, so any transactions they've done in the past, as well as what they actually own currently in their portfolio.
That's why I bring my armed bodyguards with me.
thank you. Thank you very much. Mohammed.
So one of your brand is LoopNet.
Mm-hmm.
So beside the analytical and data and everything, the syndication of available and offline and online property, are they all 100% on LoopNet or not?
They're not all on LoopNet. So CoStar powers LoopNet. So CoStar, it's free to list. Space for lease, property for sale. If you have the authorization to list a property, you can put it in the back end of CoStar. LoopNet is a paid for digital advertising for marketing, right? So some of the inventory that is on LoopNet, anything you see on LoopNet is already on the back end of CoStar because that's where that information is fed from. Now, if someone listed a property for sale or a space for lease and they're not paying for LoopNet, it would only be on the back end of CoStar. So it depends on geography and asset class, but typically what's on LoopNet, it's a give or take half of the inventory. Sometimes it's 60%, sometimes it's 70%, but all of the information is actually on the back end of CoStar rather than the front end of LoopNet. Am I making sense?
Yeah,
One second, Mohammed. Just wanted to share for those that don't know, we have a LoopNet account, premium lister account. The CoStar owns LoopNet. I think everybody got that from what Alex just said, but Ben Adams is our account rep for that. They're different platforms used for different purposes, really. So we do LoopNet presentations from time to time. We'll have another one with Ben Adams probably in here this year in the first or second quarter. So that platform is available to us.
So if I'm a member of CoStar and I post a listing on CoStar, it won't go automatically on LoopNet.
Not automatically. But to Mike's point, you guys have, I don't know why people wouldn't want to push it out to where consumers are searching. That's kind of case by case. But to Mike's point, it wouldn't automatically. You would have a LoopNet slot, right, assigned to your account. And then once you bring a space for lease or a property for sale, it would syndicate to the LoopNet platform.
So here's a related question, Alex.
Please.
If it's in LoopNet, you're a paid LoopNet premium subscriber. Will CoStar subscribers see that?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah. Think of it, honestly, it's not, yeah, it took me honestly a while to really get my bearings on it, but it's free to list in CoStar, and then you pay to research and access the database. LoopNet, anyone can search on LoopNet, and you have to pay to promote it to those free searchers. So it's not a perfect apples to apples, but think of it Bright versus Zillow. All right, one's really for the brokers, the comps, the data on the back end. One's pushing it out to consumers, tenants, owners that are just searching online that don't have access to the CoStar products. Am I making sense?
Alex, I have a question. So, without an agent being an investor, so if I wanted to underwrite a multifamily unit, so how a CoStar can help us without involving an agent on a multifamily unit? What should be the cap rate? How much the loan is? Do you have any kind of inspection reports on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So can I give you one property if you don't mind? Just give us an example. Is it possible?
I don't know.
Oh, no, I haven't
Internet access.
yeah, we're pushing 12. So
I can
do that.
I can connect with you. Yes, I didn't dig into the income approach, right? Appraisers are looking at what I was going through, price per door, cap rate, but really what's the NOI? So our syndication from our apartments feed bridges the gap on all of that. So you'll obviously get the T12s, the T3s, and being able to look at that against the purchase price to derive the cap rate. And the apartments feed will also give you what other management companies have their studio 1, 2, 3 bedrooms.
Sorry, I just want to understand. So let's say an agent tells me the cap rate is like 6%, right? So 40 units and $2.5 million. But being an investor, how can I get help with CoStar that this is the right cap rate and this is the right property and all the information? Can I get through that?
Yeah. I mean, you look at, the documents that they're sending you, right? Their T12, their trailing 12-month performance on that multifamily property. Always a somewhat of a grain of salt because maybe they have tenants that have notified them they're moving out. It still counts towards the occupancy level, but they may suffer a higher vacancy rate in the coming 6 months. So we can drill down on what they've provided in their T12s against what are the Bazzutos, what are the property management organizations bringing their availability to market for? What are the concessions? So you can start to take the documents that are provided and not pick it apart, right? But do your diligence. Make sure that's in line with what, a 1-bedroom, 700 square foot unit goes for from a price per square foot or a price per unit standpoint. And then utilize that to underwrite and really understand what's the real NOI and how is that, calculating the cap rate accordingly. So,
And to touch up on that, so I just started this position 2 weeks ago. So anybody who wants to get into commercial real estate or is working on multifamily deals or any sort of underwriting, I'm gonna be hosting an underwriting session just so we can go through how to properly underwrite a deal, different variables when you underwrite a deal, and hopefully that'll provide a lot of clarity on that.
Thank you.
awesome.
Sound familiar, Mr. Al-Kathiri? The underwriting approach. You got to know how to underwrite an opportunity to one extent or another. Any other questions?
Someone else, come on, substitute teacher, dumb, middle school, no stupid questions. Seriously, like I'm happy to know it's a lot to digest overall. Anyone got anything else?
And how many CoStar users do we have in the group? I see a couple. Okay, good. Like I said, we've I think it's currently 37. We're growing because with the growth of the company and some small commercial teams being developed. So a lot of people getting familiar with it. It's not the only game in town, as Aladdin has shared with us in the past. There are other platforms out there, but there's only one CoStar. And so they're number one for a reason, them and LoopNet. So, question?
Was there?
So how many exclusive listings are in CoStar that you can't find anywhere in any other platforms?
Again, it's very contingent on any data that you're overlaying, right? Multifamily, are they doing it more in-house versus have they passed a third-party broker with it? You could get into that granularity very easily by just saying properties for sale, going and looking at who the points of contacts are on the active inventory. I wouldn't want to throw out like a random percentage as far as those that have exclusives on the brokerage side. I don't know, Nick, any thoughts?
Yeah, look, there's multiple platforms. Like if I input, I have access to CoStar and LoopNet, I'm definitely putting my listings on there. But like we have access to Crexy. I put my listings on Crexy as well. So we really don't use it as like which listings have what listings, because usually, a lot of these brokers are using CoStar and LoopNet. So you will find a higher percentage of the listings on CoStar and LoopNet. There's more users.
Anything else? Anybody?
What is the process to sign up for membership and fees involved?
Yeah, so CoStar is
Good question.
Yeah, CoStar is a verticalized pricing module. So there's different verticals based on the organization that you work for. So if you're an owner, it's cumulative assets under management. What's your portfolio size? For the brokerage side, it's the number of licenses that are hung at any particular firm. So for example, a commercial firm, a JLL, a Cushman, a CBRE, all of their agents and brokers that hang their license at that firm, per our terms and conditions, are required to be on the agreement. You guys are actually at a really great position where we've structured the agreement the same way as the commercial firms here at Samson. So you're getting a preferred rate to drive that cost per license down, but we could never have the same requirements for a residential zone firm because there's agents across the board, Samson, not included, that don't do any commercial. So here with this type of situation, it's all going to run through this gentleman up here, Mike Briggs. So essentially,
And Nick.
and me, and
Increasingly through Nick.
and Nick, and yeah. So I work in conjunction with your principals, your leadership team. It's basically committing to the term that you're in, and because it's all sits at the office site. So it's a pretty seamless process. I just want to make sure everyone's arriving on an informed determination on.
All right, more to the point, the last couple of years, last 2 years, we were able to keep it at $3.99 per person per agent. That was the rate that we passed through. Samson Properties is invoiced monthly by CoStar, so the company is on the hook for the full amount, which is based upon that renewal headcount every year. The renewal date for us is February 1. Again, we've been an account customer for close to 20 years. And it's grown over the years. So the invoicing is at the agent level with our accounting department in-house based on a credit card being on file. All right, so $3.99 was the price that we've had. The more users that make a commitment, from the renewal group, the current group, and any new users in the next 2 weeks, or hopefully the next week or 10 days, we're going to be pinning down what is that best price that we can pass through to you all. Those that are interested, it is an annual commitment on your part. Anybody that joins during the year, during the renewal cycle, say in the summertime or whatever, their commitment would be through the end of that subscription cycle. Okay, that's how that works. We don't look to pad this account or make money off of it whatsoever. Donnie Samson and I have always tried to pass it through at cost, basically. So that really is what we try to do, other than getting Donnie a slot, because Donnie uses the system himself for all these wonderful offices. He's constantly out there doing his own research across our broad footprint, and it's proven to be really valuable for him as the CEO and co-owner of the company. I think we're up to, 43 offices or something now?
Yeah.
So that's how the pricing works, okay?
I've got one question. So what's the advantage? So if you're doing BizBuy, LoopNet, or CoStar, right? 3 subscriptions, is it better just to start with CoStar, just to have one, or deal with all 3 to list your properties?
So
Because is BizBuy under the umbrella with CoStar?
yeah, but if I can't speak on BizBuy, but it's like what, a separate subscription.
It's the business. So sometimes the real estate's involved, but it's the actual businesses. So maybe they may have like a lease on a retail storefront. You're buying the business, but you assume that lease and renewal based on whatever that is. So yeah, it depends on, again, this is very high level, so it really depends on what you're focusing on. But you know, people do one or the other. It really depends on what you're doing. If I'm a landlord, I'm not purchasing any properties. I really just got to lease this space. They might only have LoopNet. Whereas if I'm a broker and having to facilitate these deals, you might only have CoStar. A lot of our clients have both because they work in conjunction with each other and to Mike's point, serve different purposes. But yeah, CoStar and LoopNet are the main heavy hitters for marketing and due diligence.
And we do not have a company BizBuy-Sell account. I'm not even sure how that works. I haven't been approached about it. We don't have enough. We do accommodate our agents listing businesses for sale and acting as a buyer representative for the purchase of a business. There are limitations and restrictions on that. So anybody out there that wants to talk about that, please reach out to Nick and me. But we do have some of our agents are individual subscribers to BizBuy-Sell. LoopNet, I will say right out of the gates, this is what I tell people. If you are a primarily residential agent, which most of our people are, and you're not actively listing a lot of properties, or whenever you list a commercial property, I recommend LoopNet Premium for that because it gives it exponentially more exposure, and our job is to give exposure and a professional service to our clients, right? So LoopNet, that's pricing is different. I can talk to anybody about that, but it won't give you the analytics. You can't run comps. You can't do the market analysis. So how are you going to place a real value on it? Depends on what the asset is, what type of commercial property it is. You may be able to get away with just LoopNet as a listing agent without CoStar. But if you're actively looking to make commercial a real part of your business plan, and depending on who your client is and what the goals are, that's when CoStar is the differentiator.
Yeah, well said.
I got
Mr. Goma?
Yeah. How often listing is updated? A lot of the time I run into, like, you find a property for sale, and you reach out to the agent and they say it's already been sold. So how often do you update listings?
Every minute of every day. It's a real living, breathing database. So yes, a portion of that is the party's willingness to engage, right? I get that a lot. Unfortunately, I can't speak to the punctuality of agents or lack thereof. I think a lot of that is, yeah, we have an LOI, but things fall through. We want to keep it on market. So I'm not going to tell the researcher that it's sold and across the finish line yet because I still want people inquiring. So as soon as they get that, they're calling all day, every day. So as soon as that update is made and they've gone through their questionnaire and process, it will immediately be updated to reflect appropriately within the CoStar system.
And they also have a research rep. I believe ours is Leah Taylor.
Yeah.
She's phenomenal. She calls me like every couple of weeks. Hey, are these listings still active? Any changes? So they're trying, as long as the broker picks up the phone and explains that to them or makes the input on CoStar, they're pretty on top of it.
And if they go dark for 160 days, the listing's actually from the system. So, if there's no contact made with the listing agent in over 60 days, the listing's pulled from the site as a stale listing.
I see John McCambridge back there, associate broker. He's been with us for 15, 20 years. He's a CoStar and LoopNet subscriber. John, any questions that you might have, or now or afterwards? No. Let me give you a microphone. Put you on the spot. There we go.
What I was going to say is actually what's really great about CoStar is I'm terrible about updating things in those items, but CoStar is very proactive. I get a phone call from the CoStar rep, I would say once every 2 weeks, to check on the status of my listings, let me know there's, things I could be doing better on the listings. Also, they'll do the research. I don't know if I should put that. They'll do the research for you. So occasionally they'll call and I'll be in the middle of something. I said, look, I haven't had time to get to this, but I'm looking for this property. Can you do me a favor? Can you look in the system, see what you have, and send me the report? And they'll do it, which is just great. Saves time. I was going to bring up the buy biz. So, because when I go into that, I usually just buy a short-term subscription. I guess it's like 3 or 4 months when you list a property in there.
That's biz buy sell.
Yeah, biz buy sell. So the question I had is, since we do have the CoStar account and LoopNet, would there be any type of discount as being existing CoStar LoopNet into the biz buy? Because I didn't realize you guys owned it.
It's a good question. I don't think there are even site level biz buy sell agreements. So I came from the LoopNet side of the operation, so I'm very well versed in it. And now I'm in the strictly the data and analytics product. That's actually housed in our West Coast office. So I'm cautiously optimistic, or confident that there aren't any site level. That's just like you've been doing it 3-4 months. They have a little bit more flexibility on time frame. So I don't think there's even a system in place, nor would it provide any like astronomical cost savings from a digital advertising standpoint.
Yeah, but I plan to put one in there in about a week. So I'll just tell them that you said I'm going to get a 30% discount, right?
Yeah.
I just drop your name and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
See why I invited you to speak today?
You try that and you'll see how low on the totem pole I actually am over here at CoStar.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Well then, okay. One more.
Is there a way, and we always,
Need a microphone.
all right. There's not nothing. I get it. There you go.
So I know we all experience it when we're trying to get a hold of the listing agent or broker and they just don't respond. So is there a way on your site on CoStar where trying to get a hold of this agent to get more information on this property?
We experience that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
I mean, I know
it's
it's very active.
probably
Brokers that are slow to respond. I'm out of town, I'm out of the country, whatever. You just got to keep staying on top of it. Email, phone calls, and, hey, we have a buyer. If they're very interested, let's go. We want a tour tomorrow. You just got to keep bugging them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything at the contact level is in there. So like LoopNet, you have only who has the exclusive, who's the primary on the listing or property for sale. In CoStar, you have everybody. So are you trying to call the lead on the deal and they have other kind of JV associates that are involved with that, or here's the ownership information, called your broker 4 times, I have a deal to make. Like you can start to play other sides of the coin to get an answer, or at least engage on an opportunity that may be interesting.
That's it. There. So you can not to say bypass the agent. You don't want to do that. But if they're not responding,
not at first. Yeah. If it's going too long, they have a.
So let me speak to that briefly, because I've heard it, Aladdin and I have talked about it. Anybody that's trying to get ahead or start earning consistent income in commercial, particularly with a company like ours, which the commercial guys refer to us as resi-mercial. Some of them don't want to talk to you. They might not want to talk to anybody, no matter what firm they're with, if they can double end a deal. I'm told, I'm not a practitioner in the field. Okay. I've done commercial transactions over my career, but there's a certain reputation in the some commercial circles that you know, if they can work a deal for their client to their client satisfaction in company without any open market or without return phone calls, they're okay with that. But one of the things that is different for us is that we are realtors, so we're a realtor member firm, and we subscribe to the code of ethics, realtor code of ethics. The majority of commercial brokers don't. I'm not saying they're bad guys, but they don't have that as a standard that we do. And that includes, it's in your client's best interest to return calls usually. But what Nick told me was it takes a little bit of time. It is a relationship business. Aladdin and I have talked about that a lot, where you got to, the more you talk to different commercial brokers out there and start to forge some relationships, especially if you have some knowledge or data, something to say to them, and the reason for your call, it's not necessarily that long before they're going to recognize you as being for real. So,
and also touch up on one more point. What I see a lot of agents do as well in terms of like mentoring is they'll reach out to 10 brokers and 8 of them respond, but they don't respond back, right? So if you're constantly reaching out to these brokers, you ask information, they provide it to you, and then you don't follow up or give them an update, it's probably less likely they're going to respond to on other deals because you're just going ghost mode. So I'd say, you know, if they're taking their time responding to you, just say, hey, received, we'll get back to you. But just make that extra effort. It goes a long way as well.
Keith Hawkins. We got Keith Hawkins in here. He's doing a lot of business, a lot of commercial business. 1 second, Keith.
One thing I will say is to that question of getting in touch with you, it's definitely a big difference with you responding through CoStar. You figure agents that don't have CoStar and they're responding to me a regular email or maybe even write it's a huge difference as far as them responding back to you. You're way more likely than asking them a question through CoStar than anywhere else. It's just because usually the leads are just more serious coming from CoStar, period. So even when I see them, I'm like, okay, that's a CoStar. That's, you're like, they're serious, so.
Great point. We're going to take one more question, and then we will wrap it up and go to the kitchen for networking and lunch.
Yeah, I apologize. This was just a comment as well, too, because I've used CoStar and been in commercial for a long time, new to Samson. But I think the way you qualify your questions and how you reach out to brokers is going to determine, like, I have a listing. I've got about 7 leads that came through where people just click the box that says, hey, I found your listing on CoStar or LoopNet. I'd like more information. That I'm not going to get back to that as quick as someone who says, hey, I have so-and-so buyer. I have an operator for that space. These are the things we're looking for. We'd be interested in touring. You're going to get back to that person. So the people at the bottom kind of stay there depending on your bandwidth and getting back to you as well, too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Just qualifying, I think it's just a lack of punctuality in a lot of regards, but, everyone's busy. I don't want to go talk to a mom and pop where I don't think this deal's ever going to come in. So no, that's a great point. Kind of when you're walking in the door, qualifying yourself and who you're working with, giving them a little bit of intel to go off of. That's great feedback.
That's about it for your presentation.
I guess so.
Yeah. Again, everybody, Alex is available. His contact info is in that company-wide email that we sent out the other day. And, of course, Nick's information, y'all can find him. Stop into the McLean office and see him one day. It's a beautiful office for those who haven't been there. Thanks, both of you. Right? Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. Let's